Hello, everybody. So, as you know, I'm very excited about Enphase's full product lineup and say their batteries, their bidirectional EV charging products, their software. I'm very enthusiastic about all of that, but I think it's time to make a video where I focus once again on just the core product. And what is the core product of Enphase? It is the microinverter. It is that teeny tiny box that sits behind solar panels. And they own most of that market. They own most of that market. If you saw my Australia video, you know it's well over 90% of the market that they own. And they have a very, very wide reach. And in fact, Enphase has partnered with major brands of solar panels, major brands, to embed their inverters or microinverters right at the source of the panel. And so if you know anything about solar panels, you know that these are big brands. QCell is a big brand. Panasonic, Solaria, and SunPower in the US is a very, very, very big brand in the US, SunPower. And these have embedded Enphase products in them. And I just want to use SunPower as an example here. But remember, all of these are very, very popular solutions. QCell, Panasonic, SunPower, very popular solution for solar panels, as say, for example, Consumer Affairs would say. These are typical offerings that you'll see when you go see an installer. Some of them come with the Enphase microinverter. And let me just take SunPower as an example. I just want to take SunPower as an example, and the question that I'm going to ask is, is Enphase a kind of a higher margin play on the installer business? Because Enphase is focusing on the most semi-intensive part of the business, which is that electronics portion, which is that teeny tiny box that is behind the panel. And so actually, if you look, they've been, Enphase has kind of been a black hole in the microinverter business, where they have been acquiring bits and pieces from different manufacturers. And in the case of SunPower, they've acquired their microinverter business, and they became the full supplier of microinverters for SunPower, which is like a very, very big installer and maker of solar panels. And if you look on the back of SunPower's Mexion panels, this is what you get. You have a branded microinverter that says SunPower, and it's all branded SunPower. But in fact, in reality, it is Enphase. It is an Enphase product that is not branded as Enphase, but that is branded as SunPower. So Enphase is very, very pervasive. And so the question that I want to ask here is Enphase kind of becoming a kind of a Texas Instruments of solar design, where they manufacture a very, very crucial electronic component of the solar systems in the future, but most people may not even know, because people think they're buying SunPower or Solaria or Q-cells without realize that under the hood, when you look, it is actually an Enphase product, disguised, often not disguised sometimes, that is just attached to the panel. And so I just wanted to just spend a minute talking about kind of my vision for Enphase in this competitive landscape, because there's going to be competition. It's a very profitable market, and there's going to be competition. But the whole idea is that a company like, for example, SunPower, they try to go for everything. So since they're installers, right, they're also pushing their own batteries, right? They have a SunVault battery at SunPower. They're pushing their software, they're pushing their apps, they're pushing their solar panel brands. And Enphase, of course, has its own setup in which they're competing against SunPower. But there's one aspect on which they're not competing, and it's the microinverter. So that's why I would argue, when I look at the relationship between a company like Enphase and SunPower, or to a different level, when I talk about Tesla, when I compare like the Tesla energy business with, say, an installer of STEM, they kind of have this interesting co-opetition agreement, where they have cooperation on a part of the business. And microinverters is clearly in a cooperation mode between Enphase and SunPower, for example, and many other integrated panel makers. But they have an assumption of competition on the rest. And, this is good for us, because this is still, as investors of Enphase, if we are investor of Enphase, I'm an investor of Enphase, this is still a great deal for Enphase, because they get to benefit benefit from the marketing of another company pushing its product very, very hard. And so when you look, this is kind of the own marketing of SunPower. So they market everything, their own battery, their own app, and then when you look at their marketing video, you see this is our great solar panels. Look at what we have, and then they show you the microinverter, and they kind of promote the features of the microinverter brought to you by Enphase. The end customer just doesn't know that Enphase provides the product. And so, why do I think this is so attractive to partner with some of the biggest installers in the country? In the case of SunPower, it is undoubtedly one of the biggest, if not the biggest, installer in the United States. And in their case, look at how many customers they're forecasting, right? In 2022, they had almost $100,000 people consuming for them. So well above their guidance at 83,000. They're going to have 100,000 customers in 2023. These are all customers of Enphase. And remember, Enphase kind of gets a large part of the margin of these installations, because behind every single solar panel, right? Behind every single solar panel is an Enphase product, right? That would be right here. That would be 15 microinverters that are sold. So Enphase is really in a great position. And when you get into the world of big installers and big solar panel manufacturers, I think it's important to also note that they partner with home builders. So of course, home construction is down right now, and everybody thinks it's going to die. I don't think it's going to die. I think home constructions are going to bounce back. But it's good to know that the Enphase product, through major installers and manufacturers of solar panels, is getting embedded in new homes that are getting built. This is an example of a partnership between SunPower and KB Home. And so I'll conclude this video by saying that, once again, to me, the microinverter business, whether it's a branded Enphase consumer-facing system, or whether it's branded from, say, a solar panel manufacturer who's trying to push their technology, it doesn't matter, because in this case, and in many cases for many solar panels, they make the underlying product, which is that microinverter. And I'll conclude with this. That is why Enphase is, I guess you could say, quadrupling down on its manufacturing of inverters. They're setting up 6 manufacturing facilities in the United States. And the main reason for that is why? Because the Inflation Reduction Act is going to give Enphase 11 cents per watt for a microinverter, such that their latest microinverter, which retails, right? Keep in mind, installers pay way less for this. This is retail. If I wanted to buy one for myself, which retails for $167, they are going to get $42 of subsidies. And so, as the CEO said on the call, we're going to manufacture as many as possible, as many as feasible, because of that subsidy. And this is a point I've made in multiple videos, that $42 subsidy per inverter is going to cover most of the manufacturing costs. Keep in mind, when you wholesale this, it's much cheaper. This is a retailer that takes a cut. Wholesale, you're going to be much cheaper, much closer to $100 wholesale. $42, assuming they have about a 40% gross margin, that's going to cover a good chunk of your costs of making the product. And I would argue for less advanced version, like if they make a bare bones version of your IQ6, for example, I think it's going to cover all of the costs. Another way that Enphase is exploring, which we talked about on the call, is that they're talking about increasing the number of watts, right? This is 384 watts, but you're getting paid per watts in that subsidy. So this is an example of one of the products they're working on, a 480 watt microinverter, because all of a sudden you get 11 cents times 480 watts. So that's kind of their direction that we are taking too, is increasing the wattage of his inverters. So we get to a point with a very poorly designed IRA bills that's going to cover most of the costs for Enphase inverters. And Enphase inverters, that's their main business. That's where they make, that's their bread and butter, where they make for most of their money. So this is why I'm so bullish on Enphase. I like to see them being the underlying component that solar panel manufacturers and makers use, to be that overarching, that main component of the architecture that they use, even if it's sometimes not branded Enphase. So I love this about Enphase. This is not investment advice. This is just entertainment. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.